24-year-old customer service rep, LaShonda Lattimore, is suing her former neighbor, homemaker Melissa Lorette, for the cost of her son's dental bills and pain and suffering. LaShonda says 6-year-old Jeremy was hit in the mouth with a golf club.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Now, this is case number 289 on the calendar in the matter of Lattimore versus Lorette. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Lattimore, your claim is that the defendant's son hurt your son with a golf club.
Yes, that's right.
Causing him to have severe damage to his teeth, loss of permanent teeth. And
that's
you want the defendant to be responsible for the medical bills and dental bills for your son.
That's right.
Was the defendant a friend of yours?
She was someone that I knew through a family member. She was also a neighbor where I was living at, but we weren't friends, so to speak.
Okay. Now, what was the date of the injury to your son?
That was December 23rd of 2002.
And was she babysitting for you for hire that day?
Yes, she was.
And what did you pay her?
I'm not sure. I believe I paid her $15 per child because she usually watched my daughter too, but this particular day it was just my son. So when I came home, I should have owed her $15.
And you had paid her before?
Yes, I have.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And how much notice did you give her before you dropped your kids off?
It could have possibly been a couple of days before.
Do you recall?
Yeah, I do recall, and it wasn't that much notice.
How much notice
It was about 10 minutes. She knocked at my door that morning and asked me to watch her children, and I said that I would.
Okay. And you expected to be compensated as you had been in the past?
Yes. Yes.
With money?
Yes.
And how old is your son?
My son is 6 years old.
That's this little boy right here?
Yes, that's right.
What's his name?
Jeremy.
And what's your son's name?
Zachary.
Okay. What time did you bring Jeremy into Miss Lorette?
I had to be to work at about 9, so I'm pretty sure I brought him over at about 8:30.
Correct?
Somewhere, yeah, I don't remember the time, but
Was it a school day?
No, it was during Christmas vacation.
Zachary, step up next to your mom. I read here that you are a golf enthusiast.
Yes.
You remember that day in December when you hurt Jeremy?
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me what happened.
He walked behind me on mid-swing, and it was a total accident, Your Honor.
Where were you playing?
In my backyard.
Did you tell your mom you were going out to play?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you tell your mom you were going out to play golf?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you say that Jeremy was going with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did your mom say?
She said yes.
Said it was okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
And she stayed in the house?
Yes, Your Honor.
What was your mom doing in the house?
She was watching TV, Your Honor.
You remember what she was watching?
I think it was Passions.
He stepped behind you while you were in mid-swing.
Yes.
And you hit him with the golf club in his mouth.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Stand up next to your mom. Jeremy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about when you got hit in the mouth with the golf club.
I was standing right next to him. He hit me in the mouth with the golf club.
He didn't mean to hit you. It was an accident. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, when he hit you with the golf club, what happened? Did he take you inside?
No, I
Did you-
went inside myself.
And where did Zachary go?
In the house.
So you both went in together. And did you find his mom?
No, she came and found me.
Where were you?
In the back door.
And what did she do after she found you?
She took me in the bathroom.
And took care of your mouth?
Yes.
What time did you call Miss Lattimore?
Immediately after, Your Honor. He had a bloody nose when he came in. I applied some tissue and pressure to his nose to stop the bleeding, and then I called her at work. And then from there, she came to my house, and I drove them both to the emergency room.
Okay. Do you have any evidence that you want me to see?
Yes, I have x-rays here of that also shows that there were 2 teeth missing at the time. So
there were 2 teeth that came out?
Yes.
2 permanent teeth?
No, just one of them were permanent. One of them had already came out and it grew back in. The other one was just growing into the gums, just peeking out, and it was knocked out just like that.
So he's missing a permanent tooth?
Yes, right now he is missing a permanent tooth. The other one has grown back since then.
Well, you're going to have one great tooth at some point, right? One that's going to be better than all the rest.
Yes.
Never give you any trouble.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, Miss Lorette, the facts in the case are really not in dispute. I don't believe that Zachary intentionally hurt Jeremy. I believe it was an accident on his part. So I want you to explain to me why you're not responsible.
Your Honor, as I said, when this happened, I drove them both to the emergency room. I told Miss Lattimore that if she needed anything from me, if she had any medical bills, I would be there. She told myself, she told my children, it's okay, it was an accident, I have Medicaid. I haven't heard from her until recently. I haven't had any phone calls, no visits. I haven't seen any medical bills. You know, she claims that I was so negligent with her children, but yet I watched her children again several times after that. As far as I was concerned, we were friends after that. Her children were at my home the day of my son's birthday party.
So what do you think happened? Well, maybe I'll ask you, Miss Lattimore, what happened?
Okay, I haven't spoken with her since that happened, and common sense would...
Just a second, your children haven't stayed with her since that happened?
No. No, Your Honor, they have not been with her since then. Immediately after this happened, not too long after that, she moved. And then the only phone number that I had listed for her, I had to look her up in the phone book, and that was disconnected. And from what I understand, I was told through word of mouth that she had moved to Lake Worth. She doesn't live in Lake Worth. She lives in a completely different place from there.
How did you find her?
How did I find her? The person that was there because the story that they told you is not completely true altogether, first of all. When I came there after work, he was laying in the lap of my best friend that lives a couple of houses down. That's who had him. And that's who told me, because they were already friends. That's who told me where to find Melissa at.
Okay.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yeah, sure.
My question is, why did she wait so long to try to find me? Her neighbor that she was living with at the time works with my husband. She always knew how to get a hold of me because she knew how to get a hold of my husband. I lived in the same residence until the middle of February of that year. She was at my home on January 22nd or 23rd because I took her children with me when out shopping for party favors for my daughter's party. Her daughter got caught stealing when she was with me. She did something I didn't approve of.
Just a second, is that, just a second.
I did not.
Just so that you...
She's right. My daughter has been over her house since then for a birthday party when she went with her, and she did get caught stealing. You are absolutely right.
Okay. I watched her kids a few times after that.
But there's still something that I'd like to...
And then I cut ties with her because she did something in my home that I absolutely didn't approve of.
Okay.
Would you like me to reply?
I lived at that Lake Worth...
Just a second. You want to reply? I'm listening.
The reason I have not contacted you, first of all, like I said... The reason I have not contacted her, like I said, because from what I understood, she moved. Okay, second of all, the reason I did not contact her, because at first, when this was being done, I didn't know that was a permanent tooth that had come out. I didn't know until he had constantly been going back to the dentist, and I'm sitting around just waiting and waiting and waiting for this tooth to grow back, and it never did. So finally, I asked the dentist, I'm like, well, when is this tooth? Because the other one did. You see, I assumed that it was going to grow back too. I'm like, well, when is this tooth coming back? I said, I'm sorry, sweetheart, that was permanent. It's not going to grow back.
Right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
we heard something, so we stopped. I asked, what did he just say to you? And she never got to answer because somebody's kicking my car. I'm like, what are you doing? He's still kicking my car.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. LaShonda Lattimore says 11-year-old Zachary Backett knocked out her son's teeth with a golf club. Zachary says it was an accident.
Miss Lorette, you are responsible because you assumed the care of her 6-year-old child, and you had no business being inside watching Passions when your son was outside and had in his possession something that could cause physical injury. So if you sent him outside and said to him, be careful, that may be okay if he's your neighbor and it just happens to come by. But you assumed the responsibility for hire of providing care for her child, which means that if you're letting your son go outside with a racket, a bat, something else, you cannot rely on a 10 or an 11-year-old to watch a 6-year-old. That's your job. So, let me see the bills that you have, please. Bottom line is, when you assume the care of somebody else's child, whether you do it for money or not, it's your responsibility. You're almost an insurer of that child's safety. And if you don't want to be an insurer of that child's safety, you do not accept that responsibility. You don't accept that responsibility and watch soap operas.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't watching Passions that day. I was heading out the back door when this one came in screaming.
Well,
he went over
you
to
were
the
in
next
fact
door.
you were in fact inside.
Right. He went over to the next door neighbor's yard and grabbed a golf ball to bring over to play with Zachary. I told both of those boys what the safety rules were. You don't stand behind each other. You don't walk up behind each other.
I believe that you did that. Just a minute. I believe that. Let us assume that you did that.
Right.
That's not sufficient.
Right.
You have to be out there. You know, I have whole gaggle of grandchildren, and they love to play golf. And when they come to my house, I have little, all different size golf clubs for them to play with. And my grandchildren range in age, the golf players, from 2 to 10. Mm-hmm. They're never unsupervised. I wouldn't think of saying to the 10-year-old, listen, I want you to go outside and be careful of Mia and be careful of Jacob and be careful of Kobe and be careful of Alexei because they might walk behind you.
Right.
A parent is always out there. I'm always out there. My husband is always out there. Sometimes two of us, depending upon how many kids there are out there playing golf, to make sure that nobody walks behind the golf club. So, how much of these bills was covered by Medicaid?
Medicaid, those are the bills that are not covered by Medicaid.
Okay.
They're not.
Okay. Bills are at least $4,500. $33.24 and $11.82. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. The $500 that I'm awarding you in addition to the medical bills is for his pain and suffering and aggravation. You should have been more careful. You too. That's all. Step out.
All right, is that excused? You may step out.
I don't believe that the boy intentionally just took the golf club and hit him in the mouth.
Was an accident?
He was standing right in front of him, and he didn't ask him to move.
The child walked up behind my son while he was in mid-swing with the golf club.
A common sense would tell any child, whether it was a 6-year-old or an 11-year-old, move.
I put too much trust in the children, and I understand that.
Judge Judy, I watch your show all the time. We love you and thank you.
I learned my lesson. What can I say?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Pena versus Carreri, step forward, please.
22-year-old customer service rep Udelka Pena is suing carpenter Dominic Carreri for kicking her car in a drunken rage. Dominic is denying the charge.
Ms. Pena, it is your claim that Mr. Carreri kicked your car.
Yes.
And you didn't know him before?
No.
You're driving down a street late at night. What time?
Must have been around 12:30, 1 o'clock.
And where were you coming from?
I was picking up my cousin from her friend's house.
Where had you been?
I had been at my boyfriend's house.
What kind of car were you driving?
A Saturn, 1991.
Who else was in the car?
My cousin Maribel.
How fast were you going?
20, 25.
Think again.
Yeah, it was 20.
20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Unlikely. And why don't you tell me what happened?
Well, as I was going down the street, we encountered some people in the middle of the road. They appeared to be drunk. I started beeping the horn at them.
Just a minute. What do you mean you encountered some people in the middle of the road that appeared to be drunk?
They were kind of swaying, and they were just bunched out in the middle of the street. And we started beeping the horn for them to get out of the way. Nothing happened.
Just a minute. You're driving 20 miles an hour, and you see a group of people. How many people?
4 or 5.
And are they in the middle of the block, the end of the block?
They're like in the middle of the road.
Just standing in the middle of the road?
Yeah.
Now, when you first saw them, how far away from them were you?
Maybe from, I want to say, the end of the courtroom to about over there.
Over where?
Over by the flags.
So probably 30 feet away?
Yeah.
And you first saw them, you were 30 feet away. Your lights are on.
Mm-hmm.
Did you stop the car?
No, I beeped the horn for them to get out.
Why did you do that?
So that they would get out of the way.
Okay. But they didn't move, according to what I've read.
No.
So how close did you get to them?
About where you are and about right there. The end of the
Right
table.
where?
The end of the table.
So maybe 10 feet away.
Yep.
So you stopped your car when you were 10 feet away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do?
I let them by.
What do you mean you let them by?
They decided to cross.
And then what happened?
They started screaming something. I don't know why. My cousin told them to get out of the middle of the road. You're drunk.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then they got out. They were still screaming something at us. We continued to go. I must have went 5 feet or so, and we heard something. So we stopped. When we stopped, I asked, what did he just say to you? And she never got to answer because somebody's kicking my car. I get out of the car. I'm standing by the door, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's still kicking my car. So that's when I flagged an officer who was at a stop sign, and that's when he stopped kicking my car.
Do you have pictures of the car?
Yes, I do.
Let me see pictures of the car. And a police report, please.
I have a police report, too.
Okay. I'd like to hear your version of the events, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Myself, my wife, and 2 other friends were crossing the street in a crosswalk, and I looked up to my right, and there was a car coming down the road pretty fast. So we started to slow down because it was sleeting out at the time.
You mean the weather was bad?
Yes, it was sleeting out.
Is that right?
No. The weather was not bad, and they weren't at a crosswalk.
I didn't ask crosswalk. I asked about the weather.
No, the weather was not bad.
It was sleeting out that night.
Go ahead.
Anyway, as we started to come up, she started sounding her horn. We kept crossing a little bit further because she was probably about 50 yards away when we first started from the sidewalk crossing the street. And she came to a slide and stop. And just as she slid just past us a little bit, I smacked the back of her bumper and screamed at her, said, "Hey, why don't you watch where you're going?"
I know exactly what you did.
I never actually made it across the street. Then we actually kept walking afterwards and went back the other side. The police officer was sitting right across the street and saw the whole thing.
No, the police officer didn't see the whole thing, sir. But I have your statement and I have her statement. Police officer took both of your version of the events, and you acknowledged kicking her car, right? So I know exactly what happened. She was driving too fast. The weather was bad. She didn't wait for you to cross the street. You had the right of way. You got frustrated because she almost hit you. She acknowledges she almost hit you because she said she stopped 10 feet away. 10 feet away is an insufficient amount of time to stop at night. Whether the roads were slick or not, I don't know. You say that they were. She doesn't know. Certainly it's not enough time. She had no reason to start honking at you from 30 feet away, which is where she was when she first saw you, so you got frustrated. Fair?
Fair.
And the police officer said to both of you, he said to you, pedestrians have the right of way. You stop your car and you let them go. And he said to you, you're not allowed to put your hands on somebody else's property, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So now I'm going to see what you estimate the damage to be to this 1991 Saturn.
I went and took an estimate of it,
Yes.
and this is what they gave me.
Mm-hmm. What?
Just wanted to say that where I smacked the car, it was on the left side. This is something on the opposite side of the car. I even told the officer, I says, yeah, I did smack the bottom of her bumper when she came by us, but if I broke a piece off the car like she said I did, the piece would be laying right there on the ground. You know, where's the piece of the car that's missing?
Unfortunately, when you have a temper and you hit somebody's car, it's very difficult for somebody else to figure out whether the damage that was done to the car was there before. If you're dumb enough to vandalize somebody else's property, I mean, what you do is you back off, you call a police officer, you say this car was driving in a reckless manner, I want to file a complaint. You get a license plate and you do that, you know. You hurt yourself by behaving badly and by showing your temper. However, I do find, Ms. Pena, that you are partially responsible for his bad temper, because I have been there and I have seen people driving in a reckless manner, and while I don't excuse what he did, I find that what he did was mitigated by the fact that you were driving at an excessive rate of speed, which caused you not to be able to stop within a reasonable period of time. 10 feet is not reasonable when there are 4 or 5 people crossing the street. You had no right to start honking your horn from 30 feet away or 40 feet away. They had the right of way. As soon as they put their foot in the middle of the street, they had the right of way. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. Very good. So I hope that you can get your bumper fixed for $250, because that is all you're going to get. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
27-year-old designer Rachel Cook is suing ex-boyfriend, car customizer Dan Mock, for household items they purchased over the 4 years they lived together.
Yeah, this is case number 367 on the calendar, the matter of Cook versus Mock. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Cook, it is your claim that the defendant kept some property that is rightfully yours after you broke up. You were in a long-term relationship, about 4 years, and lived together for all that time?
Correct.
Mr. Mock says you got whatever you're going to get.
Yes.
So, when did you move in together and when did you leave?
We got together August 7th, 1999.
And when did you separate?
We broke up September 17th. I moved out October 1st.
What arrangements did you make with Mr. Mock about the division of property?
Well, him and my brother both loaded the items that we discussed as I was loading the truck that he said that I could have. I had taken one of the dressers and 2 of the nightstands for the bedroom set, and that was fine. And he said that, you know, his stuff was still in the one dresser, and that, you know, as soon as he replaced it, he would deliver that item to my mother's house. The steamer and the vacuum cleaner, he wanted to clean the carpets and stuff before I took those. There was a blow-up pool for my son, and then also...
Did you have a child living with you?
Correct.
But this was not the child of this relationship. It was,
no.
How old is your son?
My son's 8 years old.
What items did you take with you?
I got one of the freezers, the washer and dryer. He said it wasn't a problem to take the washer and dryer. He was just going to replace them anyways.
Don't tell me. You're editorializing.
Sorry.
You got a freezer, Had you bought that freezer?
The freezer was given to us by his ex-sister-in-law.
Okay, so the answer is you did not buy the freezer?
No.
Did you buy the washer and dryer?
I bought the washer. The dryer was his brother's.
What else did you take?
As far as furniture?
Bedroom furniture. Who purchased it?
We purchased it together.
So you both paid for it?
Correct.
Is that right?
I paid for it.
All the furniture, all the bedroom furniture?
Yes.
Is that right?
No, that's incorrect. Both our money went into a joint account for the 4 years that we were together. We opened an account in March of 2000.
And you were employed?
Correct. I haven't been employed other than 3 weeks the entire time we've been together.
So when you say that you paid for it by check?
I actually paid for it by cash. What I would typically do would be to deposit a certain amount of my check into the joint account, and then I would keep a certain amount for myself or whatever.
For cash?
For cash.
Well, that's okay. That's the way you set up your finances, so that you didn't pay for it. It was paid for from joint money. Okay. What is it that you want now?
All I want is the items that on the day that I moved out and we loaded the truck, we discussed the electric skillet, and we purchased off eBay that had not arrived yet.
Do you have a list of those things?
Yes, I do.
Let me see it, please.
Do I? They are right there.
Ms. Cook, don't be nervous. I only eat litigants on Thursday.
Sorry.
She wants a vanity-style dresser. Do you have that?
That is, yes, the dresser part of that bedroom set.
Okay. You have any problem giving her that?
Yes.
Why?
Out of the bedroom, I've kept that dresser. She's taken the bed, she's taken the nightstand, she's
so you want the dresser?
Oh, yeah, I would like to at least have a dresser.
You can have it. It's yours. It's his. You took the bed, you took the other dresser, now he's got that. That's it. Period. Listen, when two people are married and they live together, they have courts to decide about the division of property.
Correct.
When two people decide to live together and do a test run, we don't have courts for test runs. You two people put money in a joint bank account, which means that all the things that were purchased, according to you, except the stuff that was given by his family, was purchased from the joint account. You took most of the bedroom furniture. He wants the dresser. He's got it. I'm the judge. Period. End the discussion. Over. Don't respond. Next. Steam cleaner.
The steam cleaner at the beginning of summer, I had given her the money to go to town to buy.
Don't tell me you gave her the money. So you both put money in the joint account. It's not your money. Did you tell her that she could have the steam cleaner?
No.
Okay.
I'd like to interject. My mother was there the day that he said that he would deliver all these items to my mother's house. My brother called.
He changed his mind.
But the day that he was served with papers.
In order to have a contract, you have to have an offer and acceptance, and there has to be some consideration. What was the consideration for him giving you all the property?
I didn't ask for any of the vehicles that were purchased. I didn't ask for reimbursement for any of the money for his mortgage payments. I didn't ask for reimbursement.
You don't get, let me explain something. You don't get reimbursement for money for his mortgage payments because you and your child were living there.
What about the $1,100 that's still owed on my mother's Lowe's account for items that are permanently part of that house? I couldn't take my garden window.
Let me explain something to you, my dear. You do not invest money in a home unless you're married.
Oh, I know that now.
Well, if you watched regularly, you would have known it before. You do not invest money in a house.
I thought that when he said that he would do something, that he was actually maybe for the first time going to do it.
Okay. Did you purchase an electric skillet on your account?
Yes.
Who paid for it?
I did.
Show me. Prove it.
I cannot prove it.
That's too bad. She gets the skillet. $400.
How much, ma'am?
Skillet? How much was the skillet?
This is the actual payment. We purchased it on eBay. This is the replacement
Just a second. Who's we? I thought you said you purchased it.
I purchased it. I paid for it. I purchased the...
From where did you get the money?
We bought it off eBay.
Not we. Where did you get the money? Where did you get the money?
I paid for it out of my paycheck after we split up.
Well, show me.
It's right there.
Okay, good. Is this what you showed me, $36?
Yes, but the replacement cost, I want the skillet.
It was purchased on September 8th. This was before you broke up.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I guess that I had that date wrong. But it was, I went in and paid for it.
I mean, it's sort of interesting that you say that the skillet is worth $400 and you
That's the replacement cost if I were to have to go buy it.
Oh, well, you don't get that, madam.
I want the skillet.
But you don't get that. You were living together. I told you, you have a problem. Your problem is things that were purchased from a joint account.
Okay.
Courts don't do that anymore. I mean, if I'm looking at any item here that looks as if, for instance, I have a small child's desk. Whose is that?
That is hers.
Where is it?
It is at her house.
No, it is not.
Her brother returned it for me.
You're the
And
brother?
when was that?
Step up.
Yes,
You're Miss Cook's brother?
yes, I am.
You brought the child's desk where?
Over to where she is living at her mother's house. It is sitting on the front porch.
You don't get along with your sister, I assume?
No, not really.
Okay. What about an inflatable swimming pool?
The inflatable swimming pool. I'm sorry, ma'am, for laughing. It is at my house. It is in the garbage trailer. It was a $15.
It was 30.
Okay, it was a $30 inflatable pool that sat out in the sun all summer.
Well, if she wants to come over and get it, leave it out 5 days from today. If she wants to come and pick it up, she's going to pick it up.
Gladly.
Okay?
Yes.
Because that you don't sit in that, do you?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're being petty. I don't know why.
It's items that he said I could have. And he said in front of my mother that I could have, and the day they were served, they were going to deliver.
And later today,
The two of you believe that Mr. Gelhar owes you for mental distress. And Mr. Gelhar says that you aggravated him into an ulcer. Oh, everybody's in Never Never Land here.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rachel Cook claims former lover Dan Mock will not return her things. Dan says she should move on with her life.
Miss Cook, my sense is that you're being pretty petty. Most of these things are not worth a lot of money. They have no sentimental value.
They do to me.
No, a swimming pool that you bought for $30 that is plastic doesn't have sentimental value.
No, but when we didn't have it, when we unloaded, my son cried. He wanted his desk, he wanted certain items.
Miss Cook, I can't tell you that you don't have the desk. Your brother says that the desk is on the porch in your house.
It was not there when we left.
Check again. My sense is that Mr. Mock is not lying to me. It seems to me that when you left, you took an awful lot of stuff with you. You loaded it in a truck.
But I also...
not go. You want more?
I paid for stuff into that house as well. And I feel that
Your problem is you feel as if because you invested money in a house that was not yours, that you can't take out of the house, you should be able to get the things that you can take out of the house.
But I didn't take everything that you can take out of there. I didn't take the desk. I told him he could have the computer desk that I paid for. Good. I didn't take the surround sound system, which, great, I have a big screen TV that he was kind enough to let me have that has no internal speaker. So without a sound system, it's pretty much worthless.
You mean you can't watch television on it?
You can watch television on it, but you can't hear it.
Well, you go get a little speaker and plug it in.
But I mean, that's the thing. I didn't take. We had two
You're being
surround
petty.
systems.
I don't know why, but this stuff here that you have here is nonsense. I mean, it's really nonsense.
But it's items that he said I could have, and he said in front of my mother that I could have, and the day they were served, they were going to deliver.
Listen to me. I'm not listening to your mother.
Okay.
Is there anything on her wish list that you feel as if you can part with?
Ma'am.
Just to answer my question,
No,
sir. Nothing. It's all important to you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's all important to you. It's the only vacuum cleaner in your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
No, there's one out in the storage unit.
Is there another vacuum cleaner in the storage unit?
There may be. If there is, she's welcome.
And he has a new
Just
dresser.
shh. So you would have no objection to going to look and seeing if there is another vacuum cleaner that you might want to give her?
Yes, ma'am.
So I want you to do that. If you find it, you put it on the curb with the swimming pool.
Will do.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a happy life. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The real reason we were here was because I have a new girlfriend.
If he feels that I'm being petty and jealous over his convicted felon girlfriend, I'm really sorry, but she's not half the woman I am.
She's angry. She's upset.
He cheated on me, whether he wants to feel that he cheated on me or not.
She just can't. She can't let go.
I still love him. But you know what? I'm not in love with him. As far as I'm concerned, he is worse than scum.
She's just one of those people that is just never going to let go until she finally finds someone and moves on with her life.
I am back together with somebody extremely important in my life.
That's what she needs.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hoisington Mayak versus Gelhar. Step forward, please.
Musician Tori Mayak and his fiancée, 22-year-old business student Michelle Hoisington, are suing computer accounts manager William Gelhar for rent, bills, and death threats. William is countersuing for an ulcer caused by their death threats.
Whose last name is Hoisington? You're the girlfriend?
Yes.
And this is your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Yours and or your mother's?
Yes, it's in my mother's name, ma'am.
So it's your mother's home?
Yes.
You live there?
Yes.
The two of you believe that Mr. Gelhar owes you for security deposits, some rent, some utilities, and a whole lot of aggravation that you categorize as mental distress.
Most definitely, Your Honor.
And Mr. Gelhar says he owes you for nothing, but that you aggravated him into an ulcer, and he wants $5,000 for the ulcer. Right?
Correct.
Oh, everybody's in Never Never Land here. Mr. Gelhar, I'm going to deal with your mental distress first.
Okay.
You moved into their home, and you claimed that because they were such terrible people, they were involved in fighting and drugs and everything else, you developed an ulcer.
Yes, it did.
And that's your counterclaim.
Yes, it is.
Let's take care of it right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Forget it. If you don't like where you're living, you move.
Right.
Right? You weren't sentenced there. You weren't under house arrest. Nobody put a chain link fence on your foot and told you you had to stay in the house. They were aggravating you, you leave.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So, counterclaim over. Perfect. Now, next. This house is in your mother's name.
Correct.
Were you renting it from your mother?
I was living there with my mother and my auntie and my sister. They all had to move back to Wisconsin, where I'm originally from, for a family emergency. The landlord agreed to let us take over the lease, so we did at that time.
So this is a leased house?
Yes, correct.
And originally the lease was in your mother's name?
This is correct, yes.
Is it still in your mother's name?
Yes, this is correct.
So it's your mother's security deposit?
This is correct.
Now, who was he a friend of?
Your Honor, this man was a lifelong friend of mine. I've known him since, okay.
Good. He's a friend of yours?
Right.
Now, as far as I can gather here, he needed a place to stay because he was coming out of drug rehab.
He was homeless. He showed up at my doorstep with basically two glad bags full of his possessions.
He was never in any rehab program.
His girlfriend had kicked him out of his house, Your Honor. He showed up at my doorstep.
So he was homeless?
Yes, I was doing a good Samaritan deed, letting him live in my house.
Everybody wants to talk. When you say you took him in, what arrangement did you make with him as far as rent? Did you make any, or did your mother make it?
While he was living there with my mother, he was to pay $500 a month, which included phone, food, all utilities, and rent.
You were paying his mother $500 a month?
Yep.
Starting when?
Starting the day I moved in.
Which was when?
Which was about 8, 9 months ago. I don't know. I can't remember.
What day?
February 2nd, Your Honor. He showed up at my door with two glad bags.
2203. He's paying $500. And how many months did you pay the $500?
Up until
June, August. Your Honor, when my mother moved back to Wisconsin due to a family illness.
Okay. When did she move back?
She moved on June 1st, Your Honor. She was gone.
Now, on June 1st, did you negotiate different terms with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why?
Because my mom wanted us to reimburse her for the security deposit, over $3,500 down. And we all agreed to it. We all agreed to that, Your Honor.
They discussed it with me.
And he agreed to it.
But the fact was, she was like, it's just like putting money in the bank and you'll get it when the lease is up, word for word.
And?
And I said, you know, I personally would not mind paying whatever I have to pay, but once things started breaking in the house and what have you, and my clothes got sold because I wasn't there, that, to me, ended any kind of verbal agreement we had.
So what rent does he owe you, sir?
Right now, he owes me for the month of October, plus he didn't pay it to me, so there's an $83.10 late fee.
Just a minute. You left me in June. Did he pay rent in July?
Oh, yeah, he paid rent for June, July, August, September.
And how much did he pay?
After my mom left, he paid $350 a month.
Okay. October, were you living there, sir?
No, I was out by September.
Was he there in October?
No.
Then he doesn't have to pay rent. So it's just October rent?
October rent plus the late fee plus all the money for a security deposit.
He doesn't owe you any money for security deposit, sir. You think he's going to come after you when you're finished living in that house a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and say, can I have my $1,200 back? And you're going to give him his $1,200 back?
Yes, I would have.
It's not going to happen.
Well, not now. He hasn't given me any money.
Absolutely right. When you have property, in order to have a valid contract, it has to be in writing.
I've known this man for 20 years since I was in the 9th grade.
So what are you doing here, Mr. Mayak? I don't understand what you're doing here.
Well, I have a close to $2,700 claim against this guy.
You don't have a $2,700 claim, sir. He doesn't have to pay you security deposit. He's not there. You don't even claim in your paperwork that he caused any damage to the property from the time he was living there until the day he moved out, which would suggest that he would be liable for any damage.
Okay,
however, after he moved out, it's possible that you were going to cause a great deal of damage, which means he'd be out of his security deposit 3 years from now. Why should he do that? That's stupid.
Your Honor, he also owes me
you would agree that that would be stupid.
I'll agree with that.
Good. You would also agree, sir, that since you didn't have a lease, he is nowhere obligated to give you 30 days' notice if he's going to move out. So he left before October 1st, so he doesn't owe you for October's rent. And he was paid through September.
Your Honor, this man is a pathological liar.
You just told me that!
When his lips are moving, I know he's lying.
Mr. Mayak, I am not a pathological liar, sir.
I'm not saying you are, Your Honor.
You just told me he paid you rent through September, and what he didn't pay was October, and he didn't give you a 30-day notice. And I just told you he wasn't living there in October. He doesn't have to pay rent. You say he's a pathological liar.
Your Honor, he gave me a verbal agreement and a contract saying that he would give me a 1-month notice. He would be out on November 1st.
You can't have a contract for real estate unless it's in writing. I don't know what you think, Mr. Mayak. I mean, he's just as far out as you are. He wants $5,000 because he said you aggravated him when he was there. As ludicrous as your lawsuit. Listen to me. What utilities does he owe you for?
He owes me for $172.69 for the month of July, August, and September. I have the utility bills here with me.
Okay, that's what they say. Did you pay utilities during those months?
I paid my utilities, but as I went to Phoenix the first time and came back, Tori goes, look, I needed money, so I pawned some of your clothes and I pawned some stuff.
What did he pawn?
He pawned an $80 jacket and like 3 other dress shirts that I have.
No.
Just a minute. Did you tell him that you sold any of this property?
Your Honor, he had promised me on a payday that he was going to give me $50.
Towards utilities?
Yes, and he did not come through for that.
So what did you do?
At that time, I went into his room searching for anything that I could use to pay that bill, or else my utilities were going to be turned off.
And so what did you find, sir?
I found a jacket, and I got $10 for it.
Well, then consider that your utilities. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out.
26-year-old factory worker Bree Berry is suing her ex-boyfriend, 28-year-old waiter John Hayden Jr., for totaling her car. Bree says John is a con artist.
Yeah, this is case number 26 on the calendar in the matter of Berry versus Hayden Jr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Berry, Mr. Hayden was your live-in boyfriend until a while back, and according to your complaint, he took your car without permission one day, drove it. You don't know what happened, but he says he fell asleep at the wheel and he totaled your car. You want the value of that car because you say you were forced to purchase another car, and your monthly payments have, of course, increased as a result of purchasing the new car.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayden says that he had an agreement with you.
Yes,
Is that right?
Yes.
And that he doesn't owe you anything for the new car. So he's going to tell me all about that agreement in a moment, and I am anxiously awaiting to hear the details of it.
Me too.
Good. We'll all wait together. When did you live with Mr. Hayden, Miss Berry?
I lived with him for about 3 months from at the end of December until about the end of February.
Had you known him for a while before he moved in with you?
We used to go to high school together.
What prompted you to move in together?
I was conned into it. John is a very good con artist.
How were you conned into it?
He figured that we could help each other out by, he didn't have anywhere to stay at that time, and he was working and that he could help me with my bills, and that's not how it happened.
So he moved into your apartment?
Yes, ma'am, just like that. Conned his way right in.
When did he take your car and total it?
It was on February 11th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did have permission to drive the car. I drove the
Your
car.
Honor.
I had my own set of keys. I drove the car on several occasions. And
Okay, tell me about February 11th, sir.
February 11th, I woke up like I normally did and went to my where I have to go.
Just a sec. Oh, shh, listen to me. February 11th, Judge, I woke up at...
Judge, I woke up...
No, look at me here.
I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And you got out of bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
I don't want to hear you yet. He's talking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You got out of?
I got out of bed.
And who was in bed with you? Look at me. Eyes.
The plaintiff.
Are you sure? Don't speak. Remember what day of the week it was, sir?
It was probably around the end of the week.
Are you sure about that?
As sure as I can be.
What do you mean as sure as you can be? Because, Mr. Hayden, I assume you work, right?
I did work until probably 2 weeks ago.
Fine. You were working on February 11th because
Yes.
you started to say to me before, I got up my usual time and I was going to do usual things, so I assume you got up 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning because you were going to...
To my rehabilitation.
What kind of rehabilitation, sir? Is not an answer.
Well, I'd rather not go into it.
Well, you have to tell me, sir, what you were doing, because I'm going to ask you specific questions, and I don't give a rat's behind what you prefer not to go into. Put your hand down.
I was going to get my treatment for my methadone.
Okay, so you were going to your methadone program.
Yes.
I've heard that before, sir. You know, I've been a judge for a long time. You have a morning methadone program?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And where had you been the night before, sir?
At home.
All night?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got up 6 or 7 o'clock to go and get your methadone at the program. And you were, in fact, working. So where were you working?
At Uno's Pizzeria on Beachmont Avenue.
What time do they open?
Around 11 o'clock.
What time do you do at your methadone program?
Anywhere between 6 and...
Look at my eyes.
10.
So what were you doing getting up at 6 o'clock, sir, when you didn't have to be at the pizza place until 11?
Because sometimes I go in early so I can get a few extra hours in.
Good. So you were being conscientious.
Yes, I worked 3 doubles a week plus the other days that I worked. I worked 6 days a week. 3 of them were doubles and 3 of them were regular days.
All right. So you got up between 6 and 7. And you had your own set of keys to the car. You got into the car. And what happened, Mr. Hayden?
I was traveling on my way to the clinic, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, according to you, you'd been home the whole night before. Well, how come you fell asleep at the wheel?
Well, not real sure. I've had problems in the past with driving, falling asleep.
How many times in the past have you had problems driving?
Well, I've never actually wrecked from it, but, you know, I've had several close calls.
And when was that?
Years past.
Not when you were with Miss Berry?
No.
Did you ever tell Miss Berry before she gave you permission to use the car according to you and gave you your own set of keys to the car that you've had near misses with falling asleep at the wheel?
I'm sure she was aware.
No, I didn't ask you that question, Mr. Hayden. And I want you to trust me, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day. Did you ever tell her that you had near misses of falling asleep at the wheel of a car?
I'm not sure.
Good, that's an answer. Did he ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now, was this Miss Berry's only means of transportation, or did she have a garage full of cars?
She had 2 vehicles.
Tell me about the 2 vehicles that she had.
One was a Taurus and the Civic.
And which car were you driving?
The Civic.
Is that the car you were driving, the Taurus?
No, ma'am. That I had a 95 Taurus that had been broken down for a couple months. My only means of transportation was the Honda Civic.
Okay. Miss Berry, tell me about the 10th of February, which was the day before this incident happened.
The 10th of February, ma'am, I was getting tired of being in this little relationship with John because he wasn't working like he said he was. And I had asked him that, you know, pretty soon you need to find somewhere to go. You need to, you know, go live off somebody else. So he had called me from work and asked me to come home so that we could talk about it. And when I got home, about 11 or 12, and John was already drunk and nodding out, because that's one thing that I couldn't stand about him, is that he would always nod out, and he's burnt my furniture on the floor. So anyways, he slept on the couch that night. I slept in the bed. I woke up the next morning. My keys are gone. I always leave my purse next to my bed. I always take my purse everywhere I go. The keys were gone. I got a phone call about 11 from an officer stating that John Hayden was in the hospital, that he had totaled my car. So I called down to the hospital, and John just acted like everything would be all right, that he totaled my car.
So what you're saying is he had driven your car before. There's no question about that. Is that right?
Yes, but he did not have an extra set of keys.
But he had driven your car before, with your permission?
Not with my permission. I would get up in the morning and he would take it.
Well, then what you have to do is you change the locks and you put him out of your house.
That's too much.
But shh. You change the locks, you put him out of your house if he's stealing your car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
And later today,
For her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
She said she forgot.
Right, but 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas.
Maybe she's just lazy.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Now there is something that you're going to tell me that would suggest that you had an agreement with her with regard to a new car. So why don't you tell me about that?
After the car was totaled, we agreed that if she was able to get a new car, which she had no job except for about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's a lie.
So
it doesn't matter if I worked or not.
Miss Berry, what part of don't speak don't you understand?
I'm sorry.
When you're on welfare, you can barely...
Oh, my...
I'm not asking you what she did. I'm asking you what your agreement was.
You can barely make your rent anyway. If it wasn't for me co-signing, she could have never got the car to begin with.
My mama...
Miss Berry, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to dismiss your claim. You don't want that, do you?
No,
and I'm serious, you know. I don't say things and then take it back. Do you understand?
I understand.
Well, I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Berry, sir, with regard to your co-signing a loan for her.
I said, you put down the money you have as a down payment, and then I'll put down what I have, and if they let it go through with both of us being, with me being the co-signer, then you will have your car, and you will go from there.
Did she own the Civic free and clear?
I do not know.
As far as you know, she wasn't making payments because according to you, Miss Berry was on welfare. She could hardly make the rent.
Exactly.
So she wasn't making car payments. So what you're telling me is she took whatever little money she had, and you put in money. And how much money did you put in?
Probably $100.
And you put in $100. And then you co-signed a loan for her so that she could buy a new used car.
Yes.
And how much was the loan for?
About $8,000.
So what you're telling me is because you totaled her car, you obligated her to pay $8,000 for a vehicle to do whatever she had to do. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Then tell me what you're telling me, Mr. Hayden. I'm listening.
I would have been more than happy to stay there with her and be, and help her make her car payments, but she cheated on me. When I called her before I came home because I couldn't get a hold of her one day, and she said, well, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent the night tonight, and I don't want you to come here trying to cause any problems. Granted, this is where I was living, paying bills, giving her money. I make about $500 or $600 a week, and, I just would give her money.
If you had, sir, $500 or $600 a week, why don't you get your own car?
Because I don't have a license.
So, Mr. Hayden, so you took her car and drove her car without a license?
I didn't know that at the time. I have an $80 reinstatement fee to pay, which I'm going through now.
Mr. Hayden, you got more stories than Damon Runyon. The fact that you tell me that I gave her $100 towards the car, did he give you $100 towards the car?
Ma'am.
No, of course he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
I couldn't even pay.
Of course he didn't.
I had to pay for...
Shh. What year car was this?
A 93.
Do you have the blue book value of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Would you like to see all the evidence or just that?
I'd like to see whatever you have, Miss Berry.
And I don't live in Section 8.
You move people in and out all the time.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, this looks like some bad accident. What did you hit?
A telephone pole. And she didn't call to see if I was okay. She called to see if her car was okay.
That should have told you something,
Yeah,
Mr. Hayden.
it did.
Should have.
Yeah, she's self-centered, and karma will get her.
Car was more important than you were.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the way it's always been with, that's what her psychiatrist tells her.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today...
So you look at that face and you see what?
I see charming, sweet, lovely Amanda.
But when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Mr. Hayden, let me tell you something. I don't find necessarily that the plaintiff's behavior is appropriate. I am assuming that you are now involved with somebody else?
Yes, ma'am. I was drug use.
No, listen to me. I assume at least in part it was because of somebody else. Part of it may be because of his continued drug use, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. That is not a testament to your good judgment.
It's a bad judgment I made.
No, very bad. And I don't care whether you're exercising bad judgment if you're the only one involved, but you have a 5-year-old child, and you don't move somebody into your house for 1 hour who you claim is getting his methadone, but using in addition to that.
That's why I got rid of him.
Just a second. That's not true, madam, because according to you, after he came out of the hospital, you allowed him to move back into your home for a month, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old. You understand me?
Yes.
Good.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
More than her.
Okay.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
That may be, sir, but you still owe her $2,500 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Parties are excused.
Step out.
You may step
Bird,
out.
he can have his water later, please.
John Hayden is a good con artist.
I could really care less.
Anybody that John owes money to,
She's wrong.
you should take him on the Judge Judy show.
Bree's a liar.
So you can get your money also.
This is over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McGinnis versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Restaurant owner Michael McGinnis is suing his former employee, 20-year-old student Amanda Carter, for stealing 180 sodas.
Mr. McGinnis, you own a restaurant, and the defendant was an employee of yours. She worked as a waitress. Your complaint is rather unique, sir. It is your claim that while she was employed by you, when she wrote out checks, she did not charge customers for sodas. According to you, based upon your calculations, approximately 180 sodas were not charged because you believe that it's impossible for people to have ordered that many meals without ordering a drink. And therefore, you claim that Ms. Carter stole from you and you want her to reimburse you in the amount of $315, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you start to work for Mr. McGinnis, Ms. Carter?
The beginning of December.
And how long did you work for him?
I worked for him for 4 months.
What kind of restaurant is it?
It's a sports bar.
Is this your first job as a waitress?
No, it's not.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
All right. So, Mr. McGinnis, tell me what makes you think that Ms. Carter stole from you.
My wife and I, Your Honor, went to a food show. We returned from the food show, and my wife checked receipts. And for her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
Okay.
So the day before that, there were no drinks charged that day. But our policy is all meals, you charge drinks. I asked Amanda, why were there no drinks charged on the meals? And her reply was, I forgot.
She forgot to charge them?
She forgot to charge them.
Okay.
But the only thing that the server can get to themselves are sodas, chips and salsa. Everything else they have to order through the screen. But I just can't believe, Your Honor, that individuals are choking down cheeseburgers and nachos and burritos without drinking anything.
Well, she already told you. She said she forgot.
She forgot to charge.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said she forgot.
Right. But 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home. She didn't forget to pick up her check.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas, time after time.
When you do a check, how is the bill generated?
It's generated without the drink.
So the cost of the food itself comes off the computer?
Yes.
And then the server has to take an additional step before they add up the bill and add on 4 drinks,
yes.
And then you total it?
Yes, Your Honor.
So she said to you, I forgot.
Yes.
And she's just lazy. Well, what do you think she was doing? You think she was serving these drinks and drinking them all herself?
No, Your Honor. I believe that she was serving the drinks and possibly telling the patron that she was buying the drinks for them in order to get a better tip.
That's a possibility. It's also a possibility she forgot, right?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
It's also, well, it's a possibility. It's just as possible as the scenario that you proposed, that she told all these 18 people on one day, I'm not charging you for drinks, you can add it to my tip, right?
Yes.
It's just as possible as that. You would prefer that I believe she's a thief.
Yes, I believe so.
So you look at that face and you see what?
I see charming, sweet, lovely Amanda, very personable.
No, I'm asking you, but when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Well, not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
You didn't charge for the drinks, Amanda. How come you didn't charge for the drinks?
I didn't charge for the drinks because they simply weren't ordered. The bar area is first when you come into the restaurant, and many people came into the bar and bought their beer and their mixed drinks and such and purchased them from the bartenders and then made their way into the dining area where there are TVs where people like to come in and watch sports.
All right, but it's also possible, Amanda, that occasionally you let slip by
definitely.
drinks and didn't put it on the bill, right?
Yeah.
So that's a possibility.
That's a very big possibility, yes.
Do you ever tell people, listen, I'm not going to charge you for the sodas, so you could add it to my tip?
No, I've never done that.
Now, I can understand. You said to me, Amanda served those drinks, and she got the money for it and pocketed the money, and therefore she's a thief. But you're not saying that. You're saying that you choose to believe that instead of being forgetful, stupid, you know, she's a criminal, a thief. She stole money from you. And I don't buy that, Mr. McGinnis. I think that that's a very nasty thing to think about. What is? Are you on medication?
Am I on my medication?
Are you on any medication, sir? I'm wondering why you've got this grin on your face that seemed plastered onto your face. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Step forward.
33-year-old Jackie Harder is suing her ex-husband's new girlfriend, 38-year-old Denise Novo, for defamation of character. Jackie alleges that Denise passed out flyers in her neighborhood accusing her of being a child abuser. Denise says the flyers are true.
Order, all rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 244 on the calendar in the matter of Harder versus Novo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mrs. Harder, the defendant, according to your papers, is the present girlfriend of your former husband.
Correct.
Who you allege defamed you.
Yes.
In your community by slandering you and by publishing flyers demeaning your character and saying things about your children.
Yes.
Well, is this the ex-husband?
Yes.
Do you not get along with each other?
No.
You don't get along with him and you don't get along with her?
No. I get along with him if she's not involved.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
9 and 6.
And how long have you been divorced?
6 years.
So you were married for a short period of time?
5 years.
Okay. Tell me about this defamation.
I have a copy of the flyer right here. I moved into a new home October of '96, and in February, my neighbors came to me, 3 separate neighbors came to me on one Sunday afternoon and said that prior to me moving in, a strange woman had gone through the neighborhood, knocked on the door, and handed out these flyers.
Can I see them, please? Stop. I've read your answer. Now, according to your answer, you don't deny that you went up to some of the neighbors in the new place where she was moving in and had conversations with them, correct?
Correct.
You didn't discuss these flyers in your answer, but I assume these flyers are flyers that you gave to them. Is that correct?
1. Correct.
So why don't you explain why?
They were meant for a telephone pole.
What?
They were meant for a telephone pole in the neighborhood because we were concerned for the children.
Who was concerned for what children?
I, myself, and the father of the children were very concerned of situations that the children were discussing with both I and the father about some abuse towards them from their mother and the mother's boyfriend.
Step up here.
And we can no longer turn our
Step up here.
cheek.
Step up here. You have concerns about your children, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you go to the family court?
I went to the family.
You went to the family court?
No, I didn't go to family court. I called Child Protective Service.
I didn't ask you if you called Child Protective Services. You chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
Get rid of it. I said, if you are concerned about your children, why didn't you go to the family court and say, I am concerned about my children, and I think that perhaps we should entertain a different kind of custody arrangement for the children. Why didn't you do that?
I did do that. I went to mediation.
Good.
A mediation.
Good. And what happened as a result of the mediation?
What happened in mediation?
Yes.
What happened in mediation?
Try to remember, so they're your children. Did you get your children?
My children?
Did you get your children?
Yes, I did get my children.
So you got custody of your children?
Right.
So then what are we doing here?
No. I didn't get custody.
Just a second.
I didn't get custody of them. I got visitation.
Good. Now, after you had visitation with your children, according to your girlfriend, the two of you became very concerned about the children's welfare.
Right.
So why didn't you go back to court and say, circumstances have changed. I would like to have a hearing with regard to custody of my children. I would like my children to have their own attorney that they can speak to, right? And resolve the matter in an orderly fashion as you did with your visitation request. Why didn't you do that?
Well, the man that I was talking to, the mediator, he said if there was any problems to come back and talk to him. There was a statement that he issued, and it was a court order, that she not degrade me in front of the kids and to leave me alone.
Degrading you in front of the children.
Right.
That's your primary concern.
No, it's not my primary concern, but these children are going, they're not, how do you say it? Excuse me, I'm not well spoken. But my children are going through hell right now.
You think that this makes it better?
Well, I think I've already gone to the Child Protective Services. I went through the school. Nobody
If you
else
went to
would help
Child
me.
Protective Services, that means that Child Protective Services did an investigation.
Yes, they did.
And did they take any action?
No, they didn't.
And how many times did you go to Child Protective Services?
3 times.
And of the 3 times that you went there, was any action taken, any case filed against their mother?
There's an open case, but no, nothing was filed against her.
And the children remain in her care?
Yes.
Do you have any children, madam?
Yes, I do.
Where are they?
She's 17 years old.
That's not what I asked you. I didn't ask you how old she is. I said, where is she?
She's at home waiting for a job interview.
At home where?
In Santa Barbara.
Is that where you live?
Yes, that is.
So she lives with the 2 of you?
Yes, she does.
She finished school?
No, she hasn't.
Why not?
She's a junior in high school.
I don't understand what you mean. She's waiting for a job interview?
She has independent studies.
Why?
I pulled her out of the school system.
Why?
I don't like the high school near my home.
Mm-hmm. Is that your only child?
Yes, it is.
And when did you pull her out of school? How old was she?
September of 96.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been living in the same place, sir?
Since, no, it's, what?
Don't ask her.
Oh, I'm not good with dates, excuse me.
You're not good with language and you're not good with dates. What are you good at?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you ever pull your kids out of school, Bird, to put them in independent studies?
No, Judge, not
I
at
had
all.
5 kids. I never pulled my kids out of school for independent studies.
And later today,
when I started expressing my concerns, she sent me socks saying that I had cold feet.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 33-year-old Jackie Harder is charging her ex-husband's new girlfriend, Denise Novo, with defamation of character. Jackie says when she moved into a new neighborhood, Denise passed out flyers to the neighbors, falsely accusing her of being a child abuser. Denise says that it's true.
You two must be very smart people in order to teach this child yourself. He doesn't know dates, he doesn't know anything, and you do this. This is outrageous! This is outrageous! You are a mean, vindictive woman who could do this. She's moving into a new place. You didn't get what you want when you call Child Protective Services. They conduct no less than 3 investigations against her. They find absolutely no basis to remove the children, so you decide to make a little trouble, make her life a little bit miserable. And you go around before she moves into the community, and you plaster things up around the community. She says she gave it out to people. Genius over here says it was supposed to be on telephone poles. All right? I want to tell you something. If I were the family court judge, not a mediator, but if I were the family court judge who was deciding visitation with your children, you, sir, would see your children under a supervised visitation arrangement only. And I am a very serious proponent of fathers having as unrestricted quality time, if they are not the custodial parents of children, as is possible, because I always believe that that's in a child's best interest, to have the love and companionship of both biological parents. It's always been my view. I'm a serious proponent of that, but not, sir, when you live with this kind of witch. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. Whatever counterclaim there is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
Parties on Licht versus Water. Step forward, please.
42-year-old Reverend Howard Licht is suing his former fiancée, 39-year-old Stephanie Warder, for not returning the engagement ring after they called off their wedding. Stephanie says she was embarrassed by his change of heart.
Simple case. You are Reverend Licht?
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Warder, according to these papers, you became engaged to each other. You purchased an engagement ring for the defendant. You changed your mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Called off the wedding. Want the ring back.
Yes.
That's pretty simple. How long were you engaged before you changed your mind, sir?
A couple of months, Your Honor.
Why don't you think 4 months? All right, Miss Warden. Water. Is that the way you pronounce it, Water? Why don't you tell me why you think he is not entitled to his ring back?
Well, after he proposed to me and I said yes, I started planning for the wedding. I bought a wedding dress, hired a wedding coordinator, worked on getting the tuxes and the bridal dresses. I had my whole church involved in planning this wedding. And then he calls it off, but doesn't really call it off. He says, well, why don't we just postpone the wedding? It's okay, we can do that. But then he never would talk to me, with no communications whatsoever. Every time I tried to talk to him, he would be abrupt with me, sure, had something else to do. And I thought we were trying to work this out.
Did you know why he had called off the wedding or why he wanted to postpone it?
He said that he didn't like the way I talked to waiters and waitresses.
Is that the reason you gave her?
That was among other things, yes. At one point, we had a discussion about her having her hair done, and I was curious. She had told me that she had a speaking relationship with her stylist, and I said, well, what did your stylist think about the hairstyle you wanted? And she told me in no uncertain terms that her stylist had nothing to do with her decision. She was capable of making decisions on her own. It took me aback. I work with a lot of people. I listen to a lot of professional opinions, and while I may not always follow those opinions, when I make my decision, they are informed. I just began to think about what's the marriage going to be like if she makes all the decisions without any input.
I did have input from people, but the final decision is mine when it deals with my hair or something that deals with me, my car, my house, or whatever, because I am the one that has to live with those decisions.
Have you been married before?
No, I have never been married before.
But you have, sir?
Yes.
Never
According
been
to
engaged.
these papers, a couple of times.
Yes, ma'am.
And engaged a few more times.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
I was going to ask, but as long as you did.
Well, there have been a number of engagements.
Altogether, how many times?
I would say probably 7 or 8 different times.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He would get me upset about this or wanting to talk. And then, of course, it was time to go to bed because he had to get up and preach the next morning.
Real people, Judge Judy. 39-year-old Stephanie Warder says when her fiancé, 42-year-old Reverend Howard Licht, broke off their engagement, she had already spent hundreds of dollars planning the wedding. So she kept the engagement ring to help make up for the loss.
Miss Warder, how much did you actually spend on planning the wedding? Your dress, things that you could not return.
I spent probably with the dress and the plane tickets to fly down to visit him, around $1,000.
I'm not talking about the plane tickets to fly down to visit him. I'm talking about you paid for your dress.
Right.
Were you able to get the money back?
No.
And how much was the dress?
$640.
And did you give any money to your wedding coordinator?
No, because she was a friend of mine and she decided not to.
That's not a big deal.
I've never been married before. I've never been engaged before either. This was the time that I was going to do it. I was 39 years old when he proposed to me. I didn't think I should have any problem about taking the wedding dress back because this was going to be it.
When you accepted this ring, did you know that he had been married twice before?
Yes, I did.
When you accepted the ring, did you know that he had been engaged 8 times before?
Yes, I did. But I also decided that I should not hold his past against him.
Well, I'm not suggesting that you hold his past against him, but when somebody has an argument with you because they don't like the way you talk to your hairdresser, I would suggest to you that there's a problem.
That was after the engagement, not before.
You mean after you were engaged already?
Right.
You're probably lucky. Where's the ring?
I don't have the ring.
Where is it?
It's at home in a safe place. I'm keeping the ring because he gave it to me. It's very important. It meant a whole lot to me.
What do you plan on doing with it, Miss Warder?
Wearing it on my right hand. It's a nice dinner ring.
Good. How much did you pay for the ring, sir?
$2,200.
You paid $2,200? Let me see the receipt. Now, Miss Warder, I'm not going to send a posse to your house to get the ring. It's up to you, but if, you know.
I'm not going to give this ring back.
Well, then you're going to have to pay for it, madam. Listen to me.
So
let me explain why to you, because I think that that's fair. There's a difference between a broken engagement and breaking up a marriage. This guy clearly has some problems. If he makes a big megillah over your hairstylist, that's not somebody that I, after waiting 39 years, would want to hang my hopes on for a happy future. So you're probably very lucky that it ended when it did after 4 months. The fact that it was an embarrassment to you, I can understand. But an engagement ring is given as a promise, as sort of a contract in anticipation of getting married.
I did not break that contract.
I understand that. It doesn't make any difference. In my view, it doesn't make any difference because whoever breaks the contract, both parties are usually better off. I mean, are you suggesting to me that you would have wanted to have married this man, gone through with the ceremony, and found out what you know about him now 3 or 4 or 5 weeks after you got married, or 5 months after you got married, or perhaps after you had children together? Come on, be smart. You're getting away cheap. So, in my view, irrespective of whose fault it is, of who's willing to stand up and say...
Why should he get back everything when I am the one who's a loser here?
Just a second. I'm going to see to it that you get back the money for your dress. That's going to be deducted from the cost of the ring. Absolutely. Now, if you're prepared to give him back the ring, I'm prepared to enter a judgment against him for the cost of the dress. Do you understand?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Because I don't think that because he changed his mind, you should find yourself in a position of being out financially. Doesn't that sound fair?
Yeah, the humiliation that goes along with it, too.
Well, but you know, you have to balance the humiliation, Miss Warder.
Yeah, my whole church knew.
I know.
His church did not know. Even my mailman knew that I was getting married. This was very important to me.
I understand. Would you have preferred to have married him? And then been wife number 3?
At this moment, no.
There you go. So that's the answer.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Your Honor, will that be a monetary judgment for the balance?
Well, unless I can convince Miss Water that she should ought to give up this ring because it's going to be a constant reminder of this very bad period of time.
It is not a reminder of bad times for me. It's a reminder of all the good times for me.
Okay.
I am not giving it back.
Very good. I am deducting the $640 for her wedding dress, sir. $1,560 for the plaintiff. Consider yourself lucky, Miss Water. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next
On Senna versus McLean. Step forward, please.
37-year-old Deborah Sena is suing 39-year-old Debbie McLean. Deborah charges that Ms. McLean failed to honor an agreement to enter her daughter Christina in a beauty pageant. Debbie McLean says there was no arrangement. The money was for a sponsorship.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 237 on the calendar in the matter of Senna versus McLean. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Let me see if I understand this complaint. Miss Senna, you have a young daughter.
Yes, I do.
This is your daughter, Miss McLean.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter had been involved in modeling as a younger child, and probably even today. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Miss Senna, don't look at your papers. Look at me. According to your complaint, you two ladies became acquainted. You were approached by the defendant, asked if you would like to sponsor her daughter in an upcoming beauty pageant. Is that right?
Yes.
And what was the sponsorship cost?
Well, I guess the sponsorship was, I asked her, she said $185.
So that's what it cost to sponsor. And what else did she say to you?
That she would put my daughter in a beauty pageant that she was running, that she was having, and she would be able to get my daughter into another beauty pageant if she was to get into this first one, which was at the Fallbrook Community Center.
So according to you, you had an agreement with her that if you sponsored her daughter at the cost of $185, she would make sure that your daughter would be in a beauty pageant.
Yes.
And that's why you sponsored her.
Yes.
And you say...
And I say, yes, she did sponsor my daughter. My daughter had gone to her, she was babysitting for her at the time, and she sponsored my daughter to be in a beauty pageant. My daughter did go into the beauty pageant. She won the beauty pageant. At about 2 months later, I did tell her I was going to have a preliminary pageant for another state pageant, and that I would in turn let her daughter go into the pageant at no cost. But at the time my daughter had won this one, we didn't even know we were going to have a beauty pageant. At the time I was supposed to have the beauty pageant, I didn't have it. My mother's mother, my grandmother, had died, and I couldn't have the pageant, and I had to go to Kentucky for the funeral, so I didn't.
So there was never another pageant which this lovely little girl in purple could participate?
Deborah Sena had called me quite a few times and said that she, once she found out I was not going to have the Fallbrook pageant, said that I promised her. I said, I told you you could be, your daughter could be at a pageant at no cost, and I told her that I would just put her daughter in the state pageant with no.
So there was some sort of an understanding that her daughter was going to be in a beauty pageant with your assistance.
Not at the time of her sponsorship. That was not a gift. That was a gift to Casey. It was 2 months later. I told her I would, since she did sponsor Casey, I would put her daughter in a pageant. But that was not a stipulation. That's not true, Your Honor.
I want to know at the time that you. By the way, I assume you have proof of this $185.
Yes,
you have a canceled check?
Yes.
Well, then, could you tell me why you're suing her for $300 and some odd dollars?
Well, $185 was for the check, and then $100 for my daughter. And
$100 for your daughter for what?
Just because my daughter talked about this pageant. Her daughter, Casey
came to my house and babysat and had my daughter all pumped up for this pageant. She had my daughter walking with books on her head, getting her ready and telling her what to do for this pageant. She talked about it to her friends. She was heartbroken about this.
So it's for sort of punitive damages that you're asking money for?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And your countersuing her for $2,500 for some nonsense because you say she harassed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how did she harass you?
When she would call my house repeatedly, sometimes 3-4 times a day. She would swear. The swearing was unbelievable. She came into my place of employment, went to my boss, stated facts that weren't true.
Like what? Were you there?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say?
She said that I was a bitch and I was a whore, and that I had no reasonable reason to be a mother, and that I owed her money, and that Ron, my boss, should get the money from me. And she would call my house.
Does that sound familiar?
No, absolutely not, Your Honor. That is a big lie. That is a big lie.
You?
Your Honor. Well, the things on the phone, she repeatedly called me. She told me I was a whore just like my mother. Called me an F&B. And I've been taught to give adults respect, but I expect respect from them. And it's something me and my mother have not been getting from her.
Did you make those statements to this
No,
young lady?
ma'am, I did not. I called, and Casey told me on the telephone, I cannot talk to you about this.
Are you in a business?
I have a business, Tony's Masonry. It's my husband's business.
When you sponsored someone,
yes,
their name appears on a program or something. Do you have that program?
I never got a program, ma'am.
Do you have it?
I don't have a program. It happened 1.5 years ago. We recently moved 5 months ago. But I do have a copy of a normal sponsorship agreement saying that there was no refunds are available.
Just a second. That's not what I'm asking you. I asked you one thing. I asked you for apples. You gave me mashed potatoes.
I'm sorry.
Okay? What I asked you is, I assume, put it down. I assume that if your daughter is in the pageant industry, that you keep a scrapbook. And I assume that you keep all the memorabilia from all of her pageants. That only sounds like common sense to me. Put your hand down. I'm really smart. So I assume you have all of the books from your daughter's pageant.
5 months ago we moved and I told Casey to get rid of all of that stuff she was collecting.
How many pageants have you been in?
Around 15.
That's not a lot to keep. Especially one that you won. Do you understand what I mean? Do you understand what I mean? Especially a pageant that you won, you don't get rid of. You keep this, but you keep the crown, but you don't keep the program.
Right.
That doesn't sound logical to me. Why didn't you pay for this $185 yourself?
I didn't even start this process. Casey went to Deborah and asked for a sponsorship.
Did you initially have the conversation with her?
Yes, I did.
When?
One time I was babysitting for her daughter.
And what did you say to her?
I said, Debbie, I'm entering a beauty pageant, and if I would like to be in it, I have to pay for it myself or figure out a sponsorship to go into the pageant. So I asked Debbie, since I was babysitting her daughter, if she would sponsor me. And not at that time I said that she could be in a beauty pageant.
And what did she say?
She said she'd love to. And it was out of her business, too.
She said she would love to.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I really wish Debbie would shut up.
You know what? That's respect?
Well, you don't give me respect, Debbie.
You don't deserve it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 37-year-old Deborah Sena is suing 39-year-old Debbie McLean over a beauty pageant which her daughter Christina was to enter. Debbie McLean says she was paying for her daughter Casey's sponsorship, not for Deborah's daughter Christina to be in another pageant.
So when did she have a conversation with your mother?
I believe she had a conversation with my mother on the phone, seeing if it was fine, see if I asked Debbie, and then we went to her house to pick up the check.
Together?
Yes.
Does that sound right to you?
Your Honor?
Miss Sena, look at me.
Does not.
She did not speak to you first
No, she did
about
not.
it?
No, she did not. I spoke to her mother on the telephone. We were talking about sponsoring. One was contingent to the other.
No, that's not what I asked you, Miss Sana.
And, I'm sorry.
This young lady says that she asked you first to be her sponsor.
No, she did not. Her mother and I spoke about it on the telephone while I talked to her mother about having her daughter babysit for me. That's how that happened.
Okay, we don't have to take very long with this. Giving your story the best possible scenario. Okay, your story. You agreed to sponsor her, and she agreed that in the future, sometime in the future, your daughter was going to be in a pageant that she was going to run.
No, ma'am.
No, yes, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't the same pageant, it was a second pageant.
It was the fabric pageant.
It was another pageant that never took place. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. So the other pageant never took place, and therefore she could not fulfill that part of even assuming your agreement unless you can establish to my satisfaction that it was owing to her fault and her fault alone, her negligence, that second pageant didn't take place. You're at $185.
If
you sponsored her daughter. Now, I'm not 100% satisfied that both of these young ladies telling me the truth. And that includes you. You understand me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Because as sweet and as adorable as you look, I think you're a pretty good actress. That's because I have daughters.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So I know daughters can be pretty good actresses. But Miss Sania, I know your daughter is disappointed. I know she's unhappy, but you didn't have a writing with this lady that one was contingent on the other.
I have a witness that heard her say this in my house when I presented the check to her.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do, ma'am. She's
I'd
right
like
here.
to hear the witness.
My friend's name is Maria.
Maria, you step up here. Now, Maria what?
She came over to...
No, Maria what? Your
Maria
last name?
Cazares. Cazares? Your Honor, she came to Deborah's house, and we had just gotten there, and...
Who's we?
Me and Deborah. And she came over, and her daughter came in the house, and she says her daughter and Christina went outside to look at the pool, and she said, Deborah gave her the check, and Debbie said, okay, and this is for, you're sponsoring my daughter, and in return, I will put Christina in the fabric pageant.
Are you telling me that she said, in return, are those the words, listen to me, are those specifically the words that you remember as you stand here under oath? You remember her saying to you, and in return, I will put your daughter?
Yes,
Maria.
I do, Your Honor.
What makes you remember that so vividly, madam?
Because it was a big thing with Christina. She was telling everybody. She was,
I didn't ask you why it was important to the child. I asked you, what makes it so clear in your mind that you can stand here today under oath and you tell me that you specifically remember her using the words, in return for?
Because I remember her saying that.
And how long ago was this?
In May.
Mm-hmm. Of this year?
Yep. Last year. Not this year, 96.
I'm not sure whether I believe that. In any event, I think that this is a sad situation. Did you write a business check for this $185?
Yes, I did, ma'am. Your Honor?
Yeah.
May I say something, please?
Sure.
When Deborah came into my home and Maria heard her, Deborah the kids were in the backyard, and she came in the house, and she took my check so fast, and she did say she's going to, in return, put my daughter into her beauty pageant.
Yep, she didn't have a beauty pageant.
And she took out.
Just
Yes, she
a second.
didn't.
She didn't have one. Did she have a beauty pageant that you didn't put your daughter in?
No, but that's why I did the sponsoring.
No, but just a second. Did she have a beauty pageant that you didn't put your daughter in?
No. And that's why I did it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Her daughter is one of the biggest brats I've ever known in my life. She's a brat. Look at you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 37-year-old Deborah Sana is suing 39-year-old Debbie McClain. Deborah charges that Ms. McLean failed to honor an agreement to enter her daughter Christina in a beauty pageant. Debbie McLean says there was no arrangement. The money was for a sponsorship.
Did she have a beauty pageant that she didn't put your daughter in?
No. And I really feel really taken, and I'm sorry that it had to be this way, because I just wouldn't be here if I didn't feel that I was, you know, I wouldn't be...
Taken.
Right.
You think that Miss Sania feels as if she was taken? Miss McLean?
I believe she feels like she was taken.
Okay. Now, she feels as if she was taken because she was led to believe by you, led to believe that her little girl was going to have an opportunity to be in a beauty pageant. Is correct? Is that correct?
She believes, yes, ma'am.
Is that correct? Okay. And you did not fulfill that part of the agreement because you say your grandmother died.
It wasn't a part of the agreement at the time of the sponsorship.
Let us assume she believed that based upon everything, that was why she was giving you $185.
That's what she believes, yes, ma'am.
Right. Now, you say you led some credence to that because you, in your answer, say, well, the other pageant didn't take place because I had some personal problems.
I said she could be in it at no cost 2 months later. Yes, ma'am.
At no cost because you were arranging it.
Yes, ma'am.
But then you didn't arrange it.
I was unable to fulfill my obligation having the pageant, and it did upset quite a few young ladies, and it upset me that I couldn't have it.
Good.
But I did have a
But
death
none
in
of
the
those
family.
other ladies that it upset had given you $185.
Had given my daughter, yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you can understand why she's upset.
Yes, ma'am, I can.
And you can understand why her little girl is upset.
Yes, ma'am, I can.
All right? All right. Miss Sania, I'm not exactly sure that I'm getting the truth, the 100% truth from you or from you. I know what you thought. I don't know you thought that you got taken, because I don't think otherwise you would have sponsored, you would have given her a check for $185. How much did you used to pay her for babysitting?
I paid her $350, and I always paid Casey really good because my daughter always liked her. And I really do feel taken.
Why didn't you save the money from babysitting for sponsor money?
Because I used all the extra, like all my babysitting money as what a regular teenager would do.
Well, why didn't you save it for your sponsorship?
Because when I was babysitting her, I really didn't think I was going to be in this beauty pageant. It was at the last minute thing.
Oh, why was it at the last minute?
Because I didn't get the entry form until late.
So that you didn't have any money?
Right, for myself.
So, and you wanted to do it very badly?
Yes, I did.
Now, now the common sense part is coming together, so that you went to her immediately.
Right.
This lady immediately.
Right.
All right. Very good. I understand.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
All right, Miss Sania, I do believe that you are entitled to $185 from these people. I don't believe you're entitled to any more. I don't believe you're entitled to compensation for your daughter's pain and suffering or anything else. And I am dismissing your counterclaim for $2,500. So, I'm going to tell you one other thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Telling the truth is very important.
Yes, ma'am, I know.
Some people have a special gift. They may be very dumb at certain things, but some people can tell when somebody is lying to them. It's one thing when older people lie. I don't know, sometimes I think that it's reasonable. It certainly sets a bad example. It certainly sets a bad example.
She is not lying, Your Honor.
Well, I'm not so sure.
Well, I'm not sure.
I'm not so sure that the agreement that you two ladies made with your daughter, either present or outside the room, gave this lady the distinct impression that if she was going to shell over $185, it was with the understanding and assurance that it's a future date and a future pageant. Her little girl was going to have the same opportunity to go around and prance around on stage and be in a pageant. And that's why you showed her how to walk, showed her how to move, showed her how to do all those things. That's what the inducement was. That was the inducement.
But it was not a contingency. At the time when she sponsored my daughter, I did not even know I was going to have a beauty pageant.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount of $185. That's all.
Is our excuse. You may step out.
That's not
Let's get out of here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge
On Meyer versus Grumshaw, step forward, please.
Lucille Meyer says her 15-year-old daughter, Heather, was assaulted in school by George Grumshaw's daughter, Rebecca. The two girls began an argument between classes that turned into a violent brawl. Rebecca says Heather started it.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, all rise. Sir.
Judges number 224 on the calendar in the matter of Meyer versus Grumshaw. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats, ladies.
You two folks are the parents of these two young ladies. And you, madam, are suing her father because you allege that this young lady assaulted your daughter in school, caused serious injury.
Yes.
You're suing for both medical bills and pain and suffering.
Yes. I have it all with me, Judge.
Neither of you were at the school at this time. Is that correct?
No.
No, ma'am.
So you don't know what happened?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Right? Other than what your daughters tell you. So then why don't you two folks have a seat? You two ladies step up. Tell me your first name.
My name's Heather.
Heather, can you speak up, please?
Heather.
And tell me what happened.
I knew Becky from junior high when she was in my PE class, and she...
PE, physical education?
Yeah, physical education. And she used to ask me if I was in modeling and stuff, her and her friends, and I was uncomfortable about it, and the principal did talk to her, and she stopped.
So you thought she was bothering you in junior high school?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a while ago.
Yeah. And so my second week of 9th grade year, I was hazed for drill team. And they woke me up on September 13th from my bed and dressed me up as a clown.
Who did?
Drill team.
But she had nothing to do with that.
No, it's getting to the story. She had the PE class right next to drill team with me. And a guy I knew said in the PE class of hers, "She looks cute today, doesn't she?" And she said in reply, "I'm going to kick that Barbie bitch's ass." And went on to tell her.
Did you hear that?
No, he told me.
Okay, you can't tell me what he told you.
Okay. And so I went to second period where she and her friend would bug me about saying, "Heather, shut up, don't talk." And she had pushed me into my chair. And
How did she push you into your chair?
She walked by when it was cleanup time and pushed me into my chair.
How physically did she push you into?
She bumped it, and I told her to knock it off, and she stepped on my foot. And I went to go get up, and she tripped.
She tripped?
She tripped.
And fell?
Mm-hmm. She didn't fall. She
didn't fall?
She didn't fall, but she lost her balance and went back to her seat. And the bell rang, and we all rushed for the door, and I was one of the first people out. And I heard her friend say, "Becky, wait up." And she said, "No, I had to help the Barbie bitch out the door." And I turned around to say...
Who said, "Let's help the Barbie bitch out the door"?
Becky.
Go ahead.
And so I turned around and say, "What?" And she tripped me. And then she proceeded to pick me up and throw me into the wall. And then from there, I said, "What are you doing?" And she just came after me and repeatedly hit me into the wall again. Then took my head and hit me from every direction of my head into the wall. Then she dropped me and I fell on my knees. And I tried to get up, but I was unable to get up because my knees were hurting so bad. And then she picked me up again by my t-shirt and started hitting me to the wall about 20 times, I'd say. And then I remember her dropping me, and she was cussing at me at this time, and I was crying.
What was she saying to you?
She said, "I'm going to kill you, Barbie bitch. I'm going to f you up."
Why does she call you Barbie bitch? Because she thinks that you believe she thinks you look like a Barbie doll?
I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember falling on the ground, because she pushed me on the ground, and she picked me back up again by my head, my hair, started socking my face. Then she tried to headbutt me, and I used my hands to stop her from doing that. She threw me on the ground by my face. I rolled over and tried to get up, but my backpack pushed me down.
You have hospital report?
Yes. Yes.
Could I see the hospital report, please? Okay, Becky. I'd like to hear your version of what happened.
I've known Heather since junior high, but this is the 9th grade, second week of 9th grade.
What happened to junior high? She says that there was a problem.
Words were thrown back and forth. just like when we would change PE, I was made fun of because I was big-chested in junior high. They would all make fun of me when I changed in PE and, you know, but stuff like that, name calling, and it went back and forth. And then it quit because we had to sign a contract.
Who signed a contract?
Both of us did, stated that we would not talk or be around each other. And then I changed my PE class because I wasn't supposed to be around her. They changed my PE class.
So they changed your class?
And they changed my class. And then we were coming out of art, and this is in the 9th grade. And we were coming out of art, and I did not push the chair into her. I was on the other side. She was on this side. I was on this side. I was nowhere near her. But we were coming out of art class. I had tripped over her foot. I didn't fall, but I had turned around. She had kicked me in the leg. So I had turned around, and words were shared back and forth, you know. Books were dropped. We were pushing each other back and forth. No heads were hit up against the wall. That I know. We were hitting, you know, and a girl broke it up, and we had our witness, but she didn't come in because she was scared to. But she was...
Don't tell me what your witness was not here was going to tell me. Becky, were you suspended from school?
I was kicked out of school.
As a result of this incident?
As a result of this incident.
Did you ever go back to the school after you were kicked out?
No, I did not.
Did you ever go to the area of the school? Look at me. Did you ever go to the area of the school after you were kicked out?
No, I did not. No, yeah, I did the one time with my friend Heather to go pick up her sister from school with her mom. And that was the only time.
Uh-huh. Did you ever call her Barbie something?
Oh, when we were in high school, junior high, Barbie.
What about when you were in the 9th grade?
No, there was no name calling. I quit doing that because I got in trouble for it. I got yelled at it and stuff like that, and I didn't do that after that.
Why did you call her this name when you were in junior high, which...
Oh, it wasn't just me. It was, I mean...
I'm not interested in anybody else,
that.
Becky. I'm just interested in you. Why did you call her... She says you called her Barbie bitch.
No, I didn't.
Why did you use the term Barbie in referring to her at all?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I just...
Oh, sure you do.
It was just a name.
Well, it means something, Becky.
Probably because she's got long blonde hair. And
it wasn't said nicely. It wasn't said, you know, gee, you look so sweet, you look terrific, you look like a Barbie doll. Right?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is the only fight my child's been in years. I can't see where it's anything criminal.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lucille Meyer says her 15-year-old daughter, Heather, suffered severe injuries when George Grumsh's daughter, Rebecca, assaulted her in school. Rebecca says she didn't start it.
Did you have a school suspension hearing, Becky?
I don't think so.
Well, when they transferred you to another school.
I was just out of the school, and then...
What do you mean
I went
you were
to Tennessee. I went to Tennessee after the fight and stuff. And I went to school out there.
Just a second. What day of the week was this fight?
Oh, God. I don't remember.
Friday.
Friday. When did you go to Tennessee?
Like 2 weeks later.
Did you go to school for those 2 weeks?
No.
Why not?
Because I really, honestly, I don't know. Because I got kicked out of school. I was expelled from the schools, from that school.
Step up, sir. I'm going to ask you some very important questions. Just listen. Does she live with you?
Yes.
Did you get a call from the school?
About the fight, yes.
Were you told to come to school with your daughter?
Yeah, I met with the assistant principal.
Okay. And that was after the fight?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened as a result of that meeting?
I sent her to go visit her mother for a couple of weeks because she was pretty distraught. She was hurting. So I sent her to her mother's for a couple of weeks. And in turn, she ended up being operated on, and I brought her back home. She had stomach problems, and I brought her back.
Mm-hmm. Is this the first time your daughter's had trouble in school?
Not really. She's had a little bit of trouble and nothing like this.
Well, but she's had trouble in school.
Yes, ma'am.
She's had trouble. I'm not talking about her academic grades. I'm talking about with fighting.
She's had a couple fights.
Right.
Nothing.
Now, nothing as serious as this.
No.
But they started a while ago. Right?
Well, this is way back in school, yes, ma'am.
They started a while ago. Well, what have you done to try to address this? You have a young lady who has had problems in the past with fighting in school. What have you done to try to address it?
Everything I could.
Like what?
She's gone to doctors.
You mean to psychiatrists, psychologists?
Yes, ma'am.
How long has she been in therapy?
Oh, on and off for quite a while.
Have they come to any decision as to why she acts aggressively?
She's attention deficit disorder. She's been on medication for it, and she seemed to grow out of it. I mean, she doesn't fight with everybody. You know, believe it, it's just a rare occasion with her. She's just not. She's not a fighter.
Well, she is a fighter, sir. I mean,
well,
I had 5 children, and I will tell you that they got into a lot of trouble. But they didn't get into trouble hitting other people. And your daughter has had that kind of problem, which is one of the reasons that you had her in therapy, I assume.
Not for fighting, ma'am, no.
Well, you should have. Because it's not normal for a young lady to become physical. That's not right.
Well, ma'am, Your Honor, my other daughter, who's living with me now, came back from Tennessee. She got in fights. She was attacked. It happens in school.
Is your name Grumshaw?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Grumshaw, it doesn't happen in school. It happens if there are 30 million children in school in this country at any one time. It is a minuscule number of children who are involved in fighting, and an even more minuscule number of girls that are involved in fighting. So you can't tell me, you can't say to yourself, well, it happens in school. It doesn't happen in school. You know, girls can be nasty, they can be cutting, they can be gossipy, you know. But I don't buy your daughter's version of these events. I think that she didn't like this young lady for a long time.
No, that's not what it was.
Oh, yeah, I think that that's what it was.
No, it wasn't.
And I think you'd been teasing her for a long time.
I'll admit to be teasing her, but she's not sweet and innocent like she right now shows to be. She's got a mouth on her too.
I don't doubt that, madam. But I don't doubt that she can respond to you. But I think that you were teasing her, whether you were jealous.
Jealous.
Maybe. Envious for some reason. Didn't like the way she looked. Trying to show off for your friends. Whatever reason it was. According to these medical reports, she was injured very badly.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Didn't anybody come and try to stop this when it was happening?
One girl did stop it, but I was unconscious when she stopped it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lucille Meyer says her 15-year-old daughter, Heather, suffered severe injuries when George Grumshaw's daughter, Rebecca, assaulted her in school. Rebecca says she didn't start it.
You want to tell me about how long you were out of school?
Me? I went back to school the next week because the doctor told me to. And
so you were out of school for a week?
No. I went back to school the weekend after it happened.
Okay, so you went back to school on Monday?
Yeah, but I had to stay on a drill team for at least 4 months after it because...
What's drill team? Explain that.
It's color guard, it's flags for band, and...
Why did you have to stay at drill team?
Because I couldn't lift the flag because my neck and my shoulders hurt too bad.
Were you in treatment during that 4-month period?
Yes, I had treatment from physical therapists for my knees, and I've gone to orthopedic surgeons for my back, and I just started going to a chiropractor.
All right, Ms. Meyer, could you step up, please? Can you tell me what your out-of-pocket medical expenses were?
Our total is $5,141.77.
And what is not covered by insurance?
This is everything that wasn't covered by insurance.
That was not covered by
Yes,
insurance?
this is not covered by insurance. I calculated everything that was not covered.
Let me see that, please.
Sorry.
I see that there are bills here from a dentist. What happened to your mouth?
It threw my jaw off alignment and pushed it back and wore away at the cartilage. And I have to wear a jaw splint before it'll restabilize my mouth.
Tell me about this jaw splint that you have to wear.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah. Let me see. And you didn't have to wear that before?
No.
None of the TMJ specialist, none of that was covered by insurance. That was strictly out of my pocket.
It's more than a pushing. Do you understand that? Do you understand that, madam?
Yes.
This is more than a little pushing. Didn't anybody come and try to stop this when it was happening?
Some people tried to, but they told me they were afraid because I asked some people I knew. And one girl did stop it, but I was unconscious when she stopped it.
You mean you had actually passed out?
I was passed out.
Where were the teachers?
The teacher came out a while after because they had slapped me to wake me up. They had woken me up and carried me into the classroom. That happened outside of.
Looks like you've been to see a lot of doctors.
I did.
You have to wear that plate in your mouth all the time?
Yes.
You have pain in the morning when you wake up?
I always have pain.
In your jaw?
Mm-hmm. My jaw and my neck.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Listen, you understand that the maximum that I can award you is $5,000. I quite frankly don't know why you have elected to sue in a small claim situation where the maximum is $5,000. As far as I'm concerned, this young lady is not only responsible for your unreimbursed medical bills, she is also responsible for pain and suffering and whatever long-term physical problems you're going to have. I'm not questioning that. I'm not here to produce more litigation for other courts.
We are also going to criminal court.
I understand, Mr. Grumshaw, that you are, I assume, a single parent raising
Yes, ma'am,
a
I
daughter.
am.
Daughter has been in your custody, and I gather from what you tell me, sir, that you have tried to address some of the problems that you've seen with her ADD, seeing a therapist, being on medication. She went out of control. This wasn't a pushing and shoving.
Your Honor, could I say something, please?
Sure.
When she came home after this scuffle, she complained of stomach aches. She ended up getting operated on for a blockage in intestines, which was caused by adhesions to her appendicitis. I didn't.
That has nothing to do with this fight, sir.
I didn't.
That has nothing to do with this fight, sir. The fact that she added adhesions to her appendicitis when she went down to Tennessee and she was operated on 2 weeks later. You don't get adhesions in 2 weeks. Mr. Grumshaw, don't make 2 months. Don't make excuses, sir.
Not excuses.
Don't make excuses, sir. Your daughter caused some serious damage. She knows she caused serious damage.
Well,
she knows she can't look at me and tell me she didn't provoke
yeah, I got
this.
into a fight with her.
You instigated it, and you hurt her seriously, either because you are harboring an old grudge for something that dated back to junior high school, but whatever it is, you lost control, and you have to pay for it. Judgment in the case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the
Những trường hợp nào thì khách hàng không được bồi thường bảo hiểm nhân thọ? Khách hàng có mua hợp đồng bảo hiểm nhân thọ nhưng không được bồi thường trong những cái trường hợp nào? Thì video này sẽ chia sẻ với các với khách hàng về những cái trường hợp không được bồi thường. Bảo hiểm nhân thọ. Những trường hợp nào thì không được bồi thường bảo hiểm nhân thọ? Trường hợp đầu tiên đó là đơn phương từ bỏ hợp đồng trong vòng 2 năm đầu tiên khi tham gia bảo hiểm. Đây, cái trường hợp đầu tiên sẽ là đơn phương từ bỏ hợp đồng. Đây, từ bỏ hợp đồng trong 2 năm đầu. Đây là trường hợp thứ nhất. Trường hợp thứ hai là các cái rủi ro xảy ra không thuộc phạm vi hợp đồng. Những cái rủi ro xảy ra thì như là tai nạn, ốm đau, bệnh tật không thuộc các cái rủi ro được quy định trong hợp đồng. Rủi ro xảy ra không thuộc quyền lợi của hợp đồng. Rủi ro xảy ra thì không thuộc về quyền lợi của hợp đồng. Cái thứ ba đó là các cái trường hợp loại trừ của bảo hiểm nhân thọ, thuộc về các cái rủi ro xảy ra, nó thuộc về cái điều khoản loại trừ của hợp đồng bảo hiểm nhân thọ. Thì rủi ro thuộc vào cái trường hợp loại trừ của bảo hiểm nhân thọ của hợp đồng, tức là thuộc về cái điều khoản loại trừ thì cũng sẽ không được bảo vệ. Và sẽ có một số trường hợp nữa không được bảo vệ, đó là khách hàng gian lận trong cái quá trình khai báo hợp đồng. Tức là khách hàng gian lận trong cái quá trình gian lận khi làm hồ sơ thì cũng sẽ không được chi trả. Đấy, đây sẽ có những cái trường hợp như thế này. Những cái trường hợp như thế này là sẽ không được, những trường hợp như thế này là sẽ không được chi trả quyền lợi nếu như có rủi ro xảy ra. Khách hàng cần phải lưu ý để khi mà tham gia bảo hiểm nhân thọ thì mình cần phải lưu ý để biết rằng là mình không thuộc vào những cái trường hợp như thế này, thì đến khi mà quyền lợi chẳng may có rủi ro xảy ra với mình thì công ty bảo hiểm sẽ nhanh chóng giải quyết cái quyền lợi cho mình.